how I discovered my wife's affair with her former student, and the cold, calculated revenge that followed. I'm a 37-year-old man, married to Kate, who's 35. We've been together for 4 years, married for 2. Life seemed perfectly calm, even boringly so. Kate is a college professor, and I work in marketing. We met at a mutual friend's party, connected on social media, but nothing happened for a long time. We were both in other relationships, messy on and off things. The shift happened 4 years ago on her birthday. I wished her happy birthday on Facebook late at night, and we ended up chatting until sunrise. The next day, we met for coffee. She had no plans, so I took her out for dinner and a long drive out of town. That was our beginning. 2 years later, we were married. We had just celebrated our second wedding anniversary a month ago. I thought I knew her. I thought our life was settled. Then, a few weeks back, a friend pulled me aside. His name is Koresh. He told me he'd seen Kate with a young guy, maybe in his 20s. I tried to brush it off, asking what was so strange about that. Maybe it was just a friend? But Koresh was hesitant. He said their body language was intimate. They were sitting extremely close. The guy's hand was on Kate's thigh, and his lips were almost touching her cheek. Koresh watched for a moment, just to be sure, and saw them embrace. I asked if he'd taken a picture, but he said it happened too fast, and he felt weird photographing a couple in public. I believed him, but what was I supposed to do? Storm home and accuse my wife of cheating based on one friend's word? I needed more. That evening, Kate was home, reading a book. I wanted to ask if she'd met anyone that day, but I didn't know how without sounding suspicious. We weren't the couple that shared every minute detail of our days. We talked about the important stuff, not the trivial. So, I started with small talk. I mentioned I'd run into an old school friend at a client meeting. She gave a generic response. "Oh, that's nice. Must be good to catch up." I said yeah, and asked about her day. "Nothing special," she said, and went back to her book. That's when I felt the first cold knot in my stomach. If that guy was just a friend or colleague, she would have mentioned seeing him. The fact she didn't meant he wasn't just an acquaintance. The seed of doubt was planted. Over the next few days, I watched her closely. Nothing seemed off, but the feeling wouldn't go away. I had to know. So, I took the step I never thought I would. I checked her phone. One night, while she was asleep, I unlocked it. I went through her messages and social media first. Everything seemed normal. Chats with colleagues, students, friends. I checked her call log. Nothing unusual. Then, I scrolled back to the date my friend had seen her. And there it was. A call right around that time. The contact was saved as Roomie 16. Kate saves her students' contacts with their name and graduation year to keep track. My blood ran cold. Sitting close with a friend was one thing, but with a former student, that felt vile and wrong. I realized I'd looked at chats with friends and colleagues, but not with students. The last thing you imagine is your wife sleeping with a student. I opened WhatsApp and found the chat with this roomie. The most recent messages were from the last few months, and they were explicitly intimate. Scrolling up, I saw older messages from 2016, goodbyes and well wishes after graduation. It seemed he'd moved to Texas. Then, about 2 months ago, he texted her saying he was back in town. I couldn't read everything there, so I exported the entire chat to my email and deleted the sent history from her phone. I spent the rest of the night reading and rereading. The story unfolded in those texts. They had slept together when he was still her student. It started in his final year. He noticed she had a soft spot for him and began flirting. At first, she brushed it off, but eventually she gave in. She admitted she couldn't resist wanting to feel his body. So it began. But by graduation, he'd fallen for someone else, a rich businessman's daughter from Texas, and moved there with her. Kate was devastated. To comfort her, he slept with her a few more times before leaving. When I'd initially glanced at her phone months ago, I'd seen only that final goodbye message and hadn't scrolled up. Now, I had the full picture. Kate would never have confessed this in such detail. The ironic twist? During that time, Kate herself was in a relationship. So, she was always a cheater. After Rumi left, they only exchanged holiday greetings. Then, 3 months ago, he wrote saying he was back in the city with his wife. That rich Texas girl was now his wife, and he was running her father's business here. He was the one who initiated contact again, saying he missed her body. From her replies, It seemed she resisted at first, but ultimately gave in. They'd met 4 or 5 times since. By the time I finished reading, dawn was breaking. I tried to sleep, but it was useless. When I woke up, Kate was already gone to the college. I went through the motions of my day, but my mind was elsewhere. She usually came home by 5 p.m. That day, 7 p.m. came, and she wasn't home. I'd never worried before if she was late, but now every minute felt like an eternity. I needed her home. I needed to end this. The knowledge was choking me. I called her and simply said, "Come home." Now, she sounded confused, asking if everything was okay, noting I never spoke to her like that. She was home within 30 minutes. I was waiting on the porch, no phone, no distractions, just sitting. She knew immediately something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked, rushing over. "What happened?" I repeated, "Sorry to interrupt your date with Rumi." "That's his name, right?" "Rumi." Her face went blank, then cold. "What are you even talking about?" I told her the game was over. She started accusing me of making wild allegations. So I showed her the exported chats on my tablet. She froze. For several seconds, she was silent. Then her defense was, "You violated my privacy." Seriously? Me looking at her phone was a violation, but her sleeping around was just fine? Wow. I asked if this was why her previous boyfriend left her. She flared up, saying it was none of my business. But I pushed, repeating the question until she admitted, yes, her ex had dumped her when he found out about the student. I laughed bitterly. How can you be so stupid to ruin relationships for a guy who had already moved on with his life? She just said he was too attractive. She didn't even look guilty. She told me I was being dramatic, that it was just physical, no feelings involved. She asked me to reconsider, saying I was acting on impulse. I said so be it. I told her to pack her things. She stomped her foot, and as she walked into the house, she screamed that I would regret this, that I'd come begging for her to return in 2 days. She was delusional. Begging her to come back would be the last thing I'd ever do. She packed while I waited outside. When she left, she didn't even look at me. I said I'd send divorce papers soon, and if she had any pride left, she'd sign without a fight. She said nothing. Her entire demeanor screamed that I was the villain, that I had committed a crime by uncovering her affair. There was something ominous in her goodbye, a feeling she wouldn't let this go. If she had been calm, maybe I would have just moved on. But after her hysterics, I wanted to shatter her damn ego. That's when I decided revenge wasn't just an option. It was a necessity. My next move was simple. Find Rumi and expose him to the one person who could truly make him pay, his wife. I found his social media profiles before he could block me. His wife's profile was private. I sent her a friend request. Simultaneously, I hired a lawyer to start the divorce process. 2 days passed, and the wife hadn't accepted my request. I didn't wait. I sent her a direct message with screenshots of the most damning fragments from Kate and Rumi's chat. Within an hour, she replied, asking who I was. I told her, "I'm a husband to the woman your husband is sleeping with." I sent another, longer excerpt where Rumi casually talked about her and her father's business. She asked for the entire chat. I wanted to meet in person, but thought better of it. It would seem strange. I asked for her email and sent everything. She asked how I got this, and I explained the whole story. I told her to read it carefully. Everything would become clear. A couple of hours later, she wrote back. She asked if I'd already confronted Kate. I said yes. Then she said she would get her father involved to deal with Rumi, and she went offline. I wanted to know what happened next, but she disappeared. For 3 days, there was nothing. I started to worry. Rumi had used her for her father's money. What if he did something to her when everything blew up? I tried reaching out through other social media and email, but it was futile. I just hoped she was okay. Meanwhile, my lawyer was drafting the papers. An update came sooner than I expected. First, I want to say the support from people online was overwhelming. I thought I'd acted impulsively, but hearing strangers say I was brave helped. Thank you. Now the news. Remember Rumi's wife? She was gone for almost a week. When she finally replied, my first thought wasn't relief, it was suspicion. What if it was Rumi writing from her phone? I asked her to call me. She saw my messages where I said I was worried about her, and she called immediately. Her voice was calm. She explained that right after reading the chats, she booked the first flight to Texas. She was living alone in our city and didn't want to confront Rumi by herself. He seemed too manipulative from the texts, so she involved her parents. On her lawyer's advice, she turned off her phone for a week because Rumi was trying to contact her nonstop. Her parents feared that if he got through, he could sweet-talk his way out of it with some pathetic excuse. She said she wasn't that stupid to believe him, but she listened to the lawyer anyway. And then she told me what her father did to Rumi. It was a classic power move. They didn't even mention the affair. Instead, they claimed they'd found discrepancies in the company accounts that Rumi was managing. And until it was all cleared up, he should stay away from his wife. Rumi was completely blindsided. He had no idea why his in-laws were suddenly suspicious. Her father reasoned that a lawsuit for infidelity wouldn't do enough damage. At most, Rumi would pay some alimony. But her father wanted to destroy him. And then, guess who wrote to me? Rumi himself. His message was pathetic. Dude, your wife is ing crazy. She's spouting nonsense and demanding I marry her. Does she even know I'm 10 years younger? Yeah, we hooked up, but I'm not obligated to marry everyone I sleep with. It turned out that when he told Kate about the accounting problems with his father-in-law, she blurted out that I had leaked their chats to his wife. But Rumi replied that nobody had even mentioned cheating. Everyone was just worried about the finances. He thought Kate was just using the situation to pressure him into marrying her. I actually laughed out loud reading that. He was as delusional as Kate. He sincerely believed his father-in-law was angry about bookkeeping and had no clue it was about the affair. About a month after all this, my divorce papers were ready. I called Kate's mother to see if she was staying there. Her mother was surprised and said no, asking what was wrong. I told her the truth. She didn't believe me and asked for proof. I was so tired of proving things to everyone. I just said I'd send the documents to her house and her daughter could sign them. Within an hour, my phone exploded with voice messages from Kate. She was screaming that I'd ruined her life and destroyed everything. I didn't block her immediately. I wanted to see how low she could go. We'd been together for 4 years. It hurt, even through the anger. When the stream of insults ended, I finally blocked her. A week passed, and she still hadn't signed. I contacted Rumi's wife again to see how her divorce was going. Turns out, the princess was vacationing in Vegas to get over the depression while her father handled Rumi. The rich really do solve problems differently. I decided I'd write another update when it was all over. For now, I just wanted to push thoughts of Kate away and start moving forward. But the drama was far from finished. My divorce is finally finalized. Many people, after my last update, speculated that I must be dating Rumi's ex-wife since I was so concerned about her. No, guys, I'm not. I'm not in that headspace. Plus, she's not my type. I'm not the kind of guy who goes on a luxury vacation after a personal disaster, and I certainly have no intention of latching onto her father's money, especially after seeing how they dealt with Rumi. The final act of this saga was brutal. Rumi's father-in-law officially accused him of embezzling company funds and somehow made it stick in court. I don't know if Rumi was actually stealing or if he was simply framed. His wife, well, the rich princess, didn't even know how her father pulled it off. I told you, she lives in her own world. They used this financial manipulation as the perfect excuse to separate their daughter from him. Rumi was ordered to repay a colossal sum within 3 months to avoid criminal charges. The amount was astronomical. She was sure he couldn't pay and would likely go to prison. This tactic destroyed his reputation far more effectively than a simple infidelity scandal ever could. Her father is a real son of a bitch, but a clever one. As for my own mess, Kate pulled every trick in the book before signing the divorce papers. She demanded our house as alimony. She'd always been a vocal feminist, but when push came to shove, she showed her true colors as a vindictive person ready to skin me alive. Is that feminism? In her mind, she cheated and she still deserved compensation. How does that work? Fortunately, I had an excellent lawyer who protected my house from her claws. And thank God I had the evidence of her affair. I've read too many stories where the betrayed spouse ends up homeless. I wanted a clean, amicable split, but she forced my hand. I had to fight fire with fire. She started telling colleagues we were divorcing because I was the cheater, and that's why she wanted the house. Of course, people pitted her. So, I did what I should have done earlier. I sent a few of her close colleagues excerpts from her chats with Rumi. You know how people in an office crave gossip? Within days, those chats spread like wildfire through the entire college department. Kate became the main topic of hushed conversations and scandalized whispers. She called me from a landline, unleashing a torrent of abuse for exposing her. This time, I responded with cold, hard finality. I told her she could either sign the papers immediately or I would send the chats to every single one of her friends, family, and past students. Then she'd be a real local celebrity. My voice was icy and confident. She knew I would do it. I never wanted to sink that low, but she left me no choice. I hadn't even shown the evidence to her mother when she doubted me, out of some residual respect. But Kate erased that last bit of restraint. Finally, she agreed to my terms and signed the papers at our next hearing. I was free. I was out of the trap. Friends are urging me to start dating again, but I want to wait. I don't want to rush into anything new. As for Rumi's ex-wife, I haven't spoken to her since that last update about the court case. I'm not interested in how it ended. We only stayed in contact until my divorce was settled. Now that it's over, I don't want to drag the past into my present. Inspired in a small way by that princess and her getaway, I decided to take a solo trip of my own. Not to Vegas, but to Montana. I'm hoping that after a hiking trip in the mountains, I'll come back renewed and stronger. This whole experience taught me about betrayal, the cold satisfaction of revenge, and the absolute necessity of cutting toxic people out of your life, no matter how much it hurts. It's over, and I'm finally starting the next chapter. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story crazy or shocking, drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more unbelievable storytime content.